Day 11, September 17th, 2007. Today is my birthday. The two most difficult days of the year for me are my birthday and Christmas. These are the 2 days of the year where your family and friends gather around you and give you gifts and let you know how much they love you and appreciate you and value you. Birthdays especially, it's the one day out of the year where you are the sole recipient of all of your friends and family. As they gather around you, they have parties for you, they give you gifts, and they simply are grateful that you were born. But I really felt sort of invisible, and especially on my birthday. I really felt this acutely. By the time I got into college, my birthday was so painful for me that I had denied to myself that I even had one. And I got so good at this denial that I would literally forget about my birthday until sometimes the day before or the morning of. I would wake up and I would go, oh my God, today's my birthday. And because I hadn't told any of my friends that I had a birthday because I was denying it, none of them gave me presents or threw parties for me or anything like that because they didn't know. And I would usually spend the day by myself. And I would get through that day as best I could. And I would wait until midnight, and sometimes I would even watch the clock and watch until midnight came. And as soon as midnight came, I would breathe a sigh of relief and I would say, thank God that day is over. Now I can get on with my life, and I would proceed to continue to deny that I had a birthday. Now I have to admit that in my adult life, this pattern has not changed very much. I tend to isolate. I don't make very many friends. I'm very picky about the people I hang out with. I've lived alone for most of my adult life. And as a result, I usually spend my birthday alone. But this year I wanted to do something different. I went up to the mountains in the place that I felt most comfortable and most nurtured and most loved, which for me is the wilderness of the Southern Sierra Nevada mountains. And I purposely made sure that my last full day in the mountains was going to be my birthday. And so I wanted to have this trip be something that would sort of force me to remember that I did have a birthday, that I was born, that I do exist. By the time lunchtime came around, the wind had once again picked up, the temperature had dropped even more, and more of these really nasty looking clouds were coming in from the west. And this time I was worried because I thought maybe yesterday was just sort of a forerunning and now the real weather was on its way. So I walked across the meadow and I climbed up the side of the ridge just above the tree line to see what was going on, and what I saw made my heart drop. From as far as I could see across the horizon looking into the west was this huge weather storm front literally rolling up the mountains towards me. And I was sure I was going to get snowed on. So I let out a few good expletives and I said, God, why did you have to do this to me today? This is my birthday. Why couldn't you have waited just a couple more days? This is my birthday. Sort of said to myself, okay, what's the worst case scenario? I have plenty of warm clothes. I have a very warm sleeping bag. I have enough food to last me for the next few days at least. So I realized I was going to be okay, and I accepted whatever was going to come. And I started looking up at the sky, and I saw that the clouds were seemingly hitting some invisible barrier around my side of the plateau. Like the clouds would seem to come in and then they would sort of be diverted around. And I saw that the clouds were all around me, but the sun was still shining down on me. So I'm surrounded by all this weather system, but I've got the sun coming down. So I decided just to watch. I saw these enormous, menacing cold clouds coming in, and they were wrapping around these giant 12,000-foot peaks like a hand. And then these fingers of cloud and mist were dipping down, and I just sat and I watched this. And the more that I watched it, the more that I relaxed, and the more that I felt that I was being empowered by this. I felt that I was watching some show. It's as if the mountains and the wilderness came together and sort of parted the curtains to let me see the true power, the true nature of the wilderness. It was as if it was a show just for me. It felt as though I was being allowed to participate in this. And I felt like those mountains knew that I was there. Then I climbed down, and just as I was about to come out of the forest back into the meadow, I saw on the other side of the meadow, coming from my campsite, that same coyote that had literally been walking in my footprints on the path. And I'm not sure, but I think that he saw me. He stopped and he looked over in my direction. And then after a couple of seconds, he started scampering along next to the stream and then just disappeared into the forest. Okay, this is my birthday. Now I've had my vision quest. That's what I felt at that moment anyway. So I walked over to my campsite, I sat down in my chair and I soaked it all in and thought about it for a little bit, and it was as if that when I did that, that seemed to give permission to the clouds to now come over my side of the plateau. Because within the next few minutes, the sky was completely dark. The wind ceased. With the clouds descended this feeling of fear. I felt like almost like I was being choked by this really heavy feeling that was coming over me, and I started to panic. Sort of said to myself, okay, what are these feelings all about? And I allowed those feelings to come up. And what I realized was that the feeling that I was having then, the feeling of being totally alone, totally isolated, totally vulnerable, totally abandoned and forgettable, was the feeling that I had been running from my whole life. And that was the whole reason for denying my birthday. I wasn't going to run from them anymore. There was no place for me to go. I was in the middle of the wilderness with absolutely nothing to divert me from my feelings, so I decided to feel them. And I could tell the sun was going down because it started to get real dark, so I made myself a nice warm fire, and I had a nice hot meal, and I looked at the fire and I dealt with those feelings, and I finally heard myself say, okay, God, I get it. From now on, I am going to make an effort to reach out, to bring people into my life whom I care about, whom I get along with, and who love me. And after I said that, I felt this weight lift off me, and I sighed, and I looked up and I saw the moon and a star shining through the trees. And then I looked up and I saw that the clouds were dissipating and these bright, beautiful stars were shining down on me. That was my birthday. This year I turned 44. 4 plus 4 equals 8. Turn 8 on its side and it's an infinity symbol. My birthday wish this year is that I have infinite love and friendship and opportunity and success.